We got a good one today, man.
Hopefully.
Got a good one today. So thought process for today's episode is to go over, Steve, how long you been doing this whole draft prep thing, man?
I started doing NFL draft prep at Bomberitos. I think I did 5 years there.
Okay.
And then I did 1 here so far at PSM.
Okay, so 1 year kind of on your own.
Mm-hmm.
5 years down in Miami at Bomberitos.
Yep.
Just basically helping college athletes get ready for the NFL Combine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, maybe you start with kind of like how you got into Bomberitos a little bit and kind of how that all worked out. And then we can talk about just kind of, you know, the value of that experience and kind of how you kind of formed it into your own thing here in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, so I was at IU, worked with the football team there for 4 years, and one of the other equipment managers, Gavin Rogers, he was in exercise science as well. He was thinking about doing strength conditioning. He got an internship down at Bomberitos. I was familiar with Bomberitos because I remember during the NFL lockout, which was like 2000, it was an odd number year, 2007, 11, or 9. There's the NFL, it was one of those. I'm probably wrong, it's probably 2008. But like somewhere in that time, there was an NFL lockout. And so they weren't doing preseason or they weren't doing camp, whatever it was. And everyone's down in South Florida. Like Wes Welker, Rob Gronkowski, Peyton Manning, like all of these big name guys, Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew. Anyway, and they're all at Bomberitos. I'm seeing like the YouTube videos of them training, them working out together. Anyway, Gavin got an internship down there. Then the next summer, I'm looking for an internship.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, man, can you help me get an internship down there? And he called Joe Ferrer, who was like Pete's number 2 or number 1 at the time. And Joe called me. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, come down May, whatever, and then stay through August or till beginning August when you gotta go back to school. So I did that in the summer in between finished undergrad and going to grad school. I took a year off. Did that. Crazy experience, amazing experience. I'm working with like Udonis. My first day meeting Joe, getting the internship like manual. He's like, you got some free time? Like, you got anything you gotta do? It was 8:30 in the morning. Me and this other intern, Brant, got there. And he's like, you guys got some free time? Like, yeah. He's like, all right, just stay for this training session and like, just kind of see what's going on and leave after that. Cool. It's, as far as I remember, it was Joe, the coach, Udonis Haslem, the NBA player for the Miami Heat, and like his son. And Joe's like setting up something for the son, and he's like, hey, Steve, can you spot him? And it's like, all right, here I am with Udonis Haslem on bench. It's like, this is kind of crazy. But yeah, incredible experience. Spencer Correo, coach I've mentioned before on here, P has 2 facilities, or at least at the time. Yeah, I think he has 3 now. Joe was at one, Spencer was at the other, kind of like the top of each facility. And I knew Spencer's brother from IU.
Okay.
And then Spencer trained some IU players who I knew. And so like Spencer reached out to them to ask about me. They said decent things. And so Spencer kind of just took me under his wing. And next thing you know, I'm working with like fucking Le'Veon Bell and Mike Mitchell and all these like big name players. And it's like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Sean McCoy. It's like, so great experience. As my internship started to end, Pete said something to me on like my last week. I had mentioned to him it was my last week, and he was like, man, you'd be a great candidate for being an apprentice. I'm like, what's that? I guess he brings in apprentices, paid interns, basically, during draft prep, their busiest time of the year. And I'm like, okay. So I go back to grad school. I'm talking to my professors there, like, hey, I got this opportunity, like, leave January and February, kind of just do online classes, kind of come back and make up stuff. And they're fine with it. So I went down there for draft prep. That was, 2018 maybe. And that was my first year doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So P, obviously, Bomber, I mean, I don't know him, but
Yeah.
this is obviously very established, especially down in like the Miami area. So just to be able to have someone, I don't know how long he's been doing it, but to be able to learn under him and everybody that's under him as well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just gives you, especially at that age, like still in grad school, like
Yeah.
just super valuable experience.
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Insane.
And so from that point, from like getting the experience at Bommaritos, did you always kind of know you wanted to train people, whether it's NFL or NBA or whatever, for like a professional draft? Is that kind of where it started, or had you had that idea beforehand, or did you not really think it was going to turn into what it has?
I don't think I had that idea beforehand. I don't think, but afterwards, my first year doing it for draft prep, I hated it.
Yeah,
Hated it. Super stressful, because like there are times they have to hit, there are numbers they have to
Yeah.
hit, and there's a lot of money on the line, so it's
Yeah.
very stressful. It was my first year doing it, working a ton of hours, taking online classes for grad school. It was just a lot, and I was like, man, I'm never doing this again.
yeah,
And then the next year starts to come around, and I didn't do it because that was my second year of grad school, and I missed it. I was like, man. So when the combine happened in Indy, I went and visited, saw the coaches and stuff. And then the next year came around, and then I started working for Pete. But I was like, first year doing it, I'm like, I'm never doing this
Yeah.
again. It's just, yeah, it's a ton of stuff going on.
yeah,
Each year you get more comfortable with it. And I just started to fall in love with it. I knew this is something I wanted to continue doing. And I kind of went back and forth on, I told Pete when I got hired, I was only going to stay in Miami for 2 years, which I did. But man, there's times I wanted to stay.
Oh, I
But
bet. Yeah, I bet.
a lot of good, but a lot of pros, a lot of cons.
Okay, so 2 years in grad school, or just the first year?
I did 2 years in grad school, but I only did draft prep 1 year during that.
After that, you moved to Miami
Yep, during COVID.
during COVID, lived there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, moved back to Fort Wayne,
Mm-hmm.
got the job at PSM.
Thanks to you.
Okay, got the job at PSM, and then kind of worked something out with PSM to be able to continue to do that, which I think we don't have to talk, a ton about it, but I think was obviously a win-win for both parties, where it still gives you the opportunity to go down there and continue to learn, and also, kind of build your experience with working with that type of, professional, high-level elite athletes.
Yeah.
And then for PSM, it was also like, now obviously as we've seen, it's kind of worked out for them as well,
Yeah.
where they can use that as, not necessarily leverage, but just to have someone that has that experience with training somebody or training high-level elite athletes for the NFL Combine, obviously holds a good amount of weight in terms of just somebody training athletes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you were at PSM, it was for what, the first 2 or 3 years?
It was, so I quit Bommaritos, I think like December, I forget the exact dates, but I used to remember for a while. I think I left December 15th.
Yeah.
Got home the 16th, stayed at my sister's house, woke up that morning on the 17th and met with Scott and
Yeah.
Tiff, Zach, Dane at the time, Donovan at the time. Met with the staff there for an interview. And then Scott and I were talking one-on-one, and I'm like, well, hey, can I continue to do this? He was like, all right, we won't hire you until you get back. Like, you can go back down to Florida. It's December. We start January 1st,
Yeah.
basically. He's like, you can go back there. We won't hire you until March when you come back. And then I'll allow you to continue, work here 10 months, work there 2 months, work here 10 months, work there 2 months for 2 more years.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Which is how it played out, right?
Yep, exactly how it played out. Scott, of course, stuck to his word.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think everything you explained, I think that's why it worked out so well.
Yeah. Well, it's good that I think that it did end up panning out like that, because again, in the long run, it was definitely a win-win for both parties. So to kind of fast forward a little bit, last year?
The first draft
Technically
record?
beginning of this year?
Yes, this year, 2025, January and February.
Okay, so January and February this year, kind of talk about a little bit before we get into the actual training of it. I know we've talked about this a decent amount. But it's not just the training aspect, right? Before you get people in the door, especially, Miami is a little different from Fort Wayne, probably a little harder
bit.
sell. to get people to come to, especially in the winter,
Yeah.
to Fort Wayne compared to Miami. So it's like, the type of athletes obviously are going to be a little bit different. And especially just, starting something just on your own, but go into a little bit about, what takes place before the athletes actually show up. So in terms of reaching out to athletes, recruiting athletes, kind of selling them on what you do. Again, it doesn't have to be super in depth, but like, what's that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So probably last year about this time, maybe in July,
Yeah.
met with Scott, met with Tommy. Hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Met with Candace probably as well. This is what I'm trying to do. You guys on board with it? Of course, they're on board with it. And then I start basically getting a list of players I want to reach out to.
Okay.
So I'm not reaching out to, the guys at Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Alabama. I'm not established yet,
Yeah.
and it's Fort Wayne, Indiana,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, let's just get our foot in the door with some of these players, these agents, and just show what we can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, start putting together like marketing packets to
Okay.
hand out virtually, digitally, hand out to players and agents, put together contracts on pricing, but then like with contracts you need like, okay, here's training. I'm going to take them through speed and agility training, and we're going to lift in the weight room, and there's going to be position coaches, and there's going to be a nutritionist, and there's going to be a mental performance coach, and we're going to provide all the food, and we're going to provide housing, and we're going to provide skipped over physical therapy. What else? And we can hook you up with a rental car. So
Yeah.
it's like, as an agent, typically it's the agent that pays, but sometimes players or their family pay. They drop off a check, everything's taken care of. It's like, we got you an apartment, it's fully furnished, you don't have to pay utilities. We got your food, you meet with a nutritionist literally whenever. You have physical therapy, we got all the training, we got position coaches, we got indoor turf. Like, so just having everything in place.
Yeah.
It was a lot to put everything together.
Sure.
Dr. Dom, who we met with, having all of these pieces, but then that's what they did in Miami. They had everything. Chiropractor, acupuncture, massage therapist, they had everything. And it was all right there. You didn't
Yeah.
have to go anywhere. Food gets delivered right to the facility. It's like, okay, this is how we got to do it. Just make everyone's life easier, except
Yeah.
except for mine.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody but yours. But yeah, I mean, just having obviously everything as kind of like a package
Yeah.
in terms of selling it to somebody, especially with it being the first year, with
Yeah.
like you said, okay, like, yeah, you have experience, but first year doing it on your own, like having all of that included in one package just makes the sell, I can imagine, just so much easier,
Yeah.
to be able to get that person on board. Because having everything available in one place, more or less, like, I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't even realize, a tenth of what goes into preparing an athlete for whatever combine or draft that they're preparing for. But just like right there, listing off 9 or 10 different things that go into it that, if you really want to have a legit program to do that, like, you're going to have to. It can't just be, oh, come in and train with us.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there's so much more behind the scenes than most people, myself included, realize. So that's kind of key. You start reaching out to athletes, having phone calls with them or whatever it is,
Yep.
explaining to them what you offer.
Yep.
How many athletes this past year did you have work with you?
We had 5.
Okay, so 5 total athletes, and they were kind of were some of them, I remember some of them, but kind of like what kind of schools were they from, and what were they kind of hoping to get out of it?
Yeah, so we had one from NAIA,
Okay.
one from D3, then the other 3 were all D1. One was D1 FCS, maybe 2 were D1 FCS, and one was, well, I forget how, because it's not Power 5 anymore. It's like Power 4, and then there's the whatever.
Yeah.
But he was in the MAC.
Okay.
So the MAC was the biggest conference of a player that we had.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the second part of that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. But I mean, looking at it, and just in terms of the athletes that you had, sure, they're not at the level of what, Bomberitos has, but still, at the end of the day, I mean, one was a national champion,
Yep.
multiple-time national champion, right?
Yep.
Or no?
Yep. 2-time.
Okay, 2-time national champion. One had, I forget the exact stat, but in terms of he led the running back.
Mm-hmm.
What were his stats in terms of like rushing yards?
He led, I want to say he led the FCS in touchdowns.
Okay.
And broke like the single season record of touchdowns at his school.
Yeah.
One guy, the receiver, two different schools. I forget exactly how it was termed, but like most productive or one of the most productive receivers because he had 1,000 yards at each of his schools.
Okay.
Like each season. Defensive back was a D3 All-American.
Okay.
Might have led the. Man, I wish I had these off the top of my head like I used to. I think he led D3 in interceptions his junior year. So like, they were accomplished. They were good football players. They just played at small schools.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make. It's not like they were scrubs, you know what I mean?
No. Yeah, correct.
Like these guys were all legit and had a lot of success at the level that they played at.
Yeah.
So after that, you get the athletes in, kind of go through just kind of, once they show up, it's like, you get them all acquainted with where they're living and, transportation, obviously the facility, but then to kind of get a little bit into the actual training aspect of it, what, in terms of like program length, in terms of frequency, like throughout the week, kind of like start breaking that down and kind of what the actual training of these athletes kind of looks like.
Yeah. So typically it's an 8-week program, and not because 8 is like any special number, but if you're going to the NFL Combine, which these guys weren't, they're just doing their pro day.
Yeah.
If you're going to the NFL Combine, your football season, if you're in a bowl game, will typically end of December, early January. The NFL Combine starts 8 weeks later.
Okay.
So that's typically where the 8 weeks comes from. We're there at the facility. The players are there 6 days a week.
Okay.
There's going to be like the weekly layout for me. Monday is going to be, we'll work on starts. So 40-yard dash starts, but it's not like an intense acceleration day. It's for the most part unresisted. It's 5 and 10-yard starts. It's cleaning up some stuff in their stance. We'll do starts. We'll do the agility drills, so 5, 10, 5 and L drill, upper body lift, and then physical therapy, lunch, go home.
Okay.
Tuesday is speed day. The whole hour and a half, 2 hours on the field is 40-yard dash work. Lower body lift, again, physical therapy, lunch, go home. Wednesday is just recovery. They would meet with the mental performance coach. They might have a check-in with the nutritionist. They definitely had physical therapy and recovery, but it was just, I took them through mobility, and it was just a feel-good day.
Okay.
And they're out of there early. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday are pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. As far as upper body and agility, sprints, lower body, recovery.
Yeah. It'd probably be good to go through like what the actual combine or pro day drills kind of look like.
Sure.
So you have obviously the 40.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Pro agility or 5, 10, 5. L drill. Bench press.
225 bench press. Vert and broad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's technically another shuttle. They don't really do it at pro days. They do it at the combine, but everyone opts out of it. So
what is it?
A 60-yard shuttle, 5 back, 10 back, 15 back.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that shit either.
Yeah, nobody knows what a good time is on that. It's conditioning. It sucks.
Okay, so those kind of are 6 tests that when you go to like build out the program, obviously it's important to know what you're training for, and kind of at the end of the day, as you kind of mentioned earlier, like your NFL or pro day combine training is all results based, right? Like these are all quantitative tests that you're going to go and get a score on. And so you know ahead of time, obviously, what the tests are, but as someone that is leading a program like this, it's, excuse me, it's imperative to, improve on all these tests or to get good numbers on these tests.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your weekly layout, kind of what your training looks like, in terms of how you kind of progress each week and kind of how, like, what that looks like over the 8 weeks, like, where do you start and where do you end in terms of, I know we've talked privately about just, they didn't even run like a 40-yard dash, like a
Yeah.
baseline test,
Yeah.
obviously for reasons that you can talk about if you want to, but
Yeah.
just kind of like where do you start and kind of how does it progress? Like when you get to week 7 and 8, are you, is the training like really ramped up or do you kind of die down like before, a week or two before the actual pro day, or kind of like how does that work?
Yeah. So week 1, as you're alluding to, pre-test, we'll get a vert, we'll get a broad jump, we'll do 5, 10, 5, L drill, 225 if they're cleared for it. We had one guy with like a wrist issue. Okay, 225 is not as important. 40 is the most important.
Yeah.
Vert, broad, right there. Agility and 225 are kind of a little bit later in priority. So yeah, I don't test a 40. I have the guys. All these guys just got done playing college football.
Yeah.
One of them, as you mentioned, literally finished the national championship game, then came to us like the next week.
Yeah.
So as far as they're in shape, but they're beat up.
Yeah.
They all had injuries. They just got done with college football season, and they're not in sprint shape, which is fine. So to have them run a 40-yard dash all out just makes me too nervous.
Sure.
So I've seen issues happen, and then you're set back literally the whole rest of 8 weeks because it might only take 2-3 weeks to get back from it.
Yeah.
But it constantly feels tight, and you're constantly second guessing if you can run full speed. So we'll run pre-test. We'll run a 20, and we'll time the 10-yard start and the 20-yard finish. So we get like their splits, and then if they feel good, then we'll run a 30.
Okay.
And same thing, get lasers up 10, 20, and 30, and you can use that to estimate what their 40 would be.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I gave them all too nice of an estimate. I think with this data, it's like, oh, if you ran, I don't know, doesn't even matter. But for 30 yards is here, and I'm giving like the skill guys a second or 1.05 seconds to get the last 10. It's like, they weren't actually that fast.
Yeah.
It should have been 1.1. So their estimates looked better than what they probably would have really ran.
Okay.
Yeah, from there, week 1 is, I think of it, there's an intern working with me, Jaden, and he's now at Montana. Jaden was awesome, and he would take notes as we're going, or afterwards he'd write down what he saw, what the program looks like, and we would talk afterwards, like at the end of the week, like, okay, so it looks like you're starting them off with a hypertrophy block and blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? You're not wrong, but that's not actually my goal.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more tissue and nervous system instead of hypertrophy, strength, speed, power, speed. I'm thinking more tissue demand and then nervous system demand. And initially, it's a lot more tissue. Okay. I want to make sure their muscles and connective tissue is capable of dealing with the higher intensities that come later on.
Sure.
So initially, lower-ish intensity compared to what we get to. Lower-ish intensity, lower volume. The first 4 weeks you build up volume in the weight room for lower body and on the field for sprinting stuff. The sprinting stuff, even if they're going all out, a lot of it is resisted sprints. So it's a lower speed, which is safer. People think sled sprints is dangerous. It's like, no, it slows you down.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot less dangerous. So we started with slower speeds, lower intensities, both on the field and in the weight room. We started with lower volume and progressed volume for 4 weeks. And then after 4 weeks, we started to drop volume, pick up intensity, so they run at faster speeds. On the field, we're doing over speeds, we're doing longer distance, we're doing less resisted. Weight room, we're doing faster speed squats, we're doing heavier split squats, we're doing more jumps, things like that. And then the last 2 weeks, maybe not with me, depending on when their pro day is, but their last 2 weeks before the pro day is a taper.
Okay.
And what I learned down at Bomberitos is taper, you completely stop doing legs. So for 2 weeks, 8 weeks, let's say 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks, I'm crushing their legs. I mean, we're doing Tuesday is a heavy split squat, and then it ends up being isometric push. We're doing Nordics, we're doing RDLs, we're doing RDL catches, we're doing glute ham raises, and then we're doing speed squats on Friday and step up. Like, I'm trying to completely obliterate their legs.
Yeah.
And then for 2 weeks, you don't touch their legs. So, and for some people that can be confusing. Like this group was good about it.
Yeah.
But previous groups, they're like freak out. Like, no, I need to squat. And it's like, no, like you've built muscle, you've built strength. Now we just need to focus on applying it fast.
Yeah.
So, and as far as their volumes on the field are cut drastically as well.
Sure.
So that's kind of how it progresses. As far as, yeah, again, how I think of it is I'm thinking tissue. I'm thinking building tissue, making sure that there's not going to be, I'm trying to minimize the risk of a calf injury, a groin, a hip flexor, a hamstring. So we're doing a lot of drill work initially on the field.
Okay.
A skips, we're doing A marches, we're doing some sled sprints as well, but and some free sprints, but like 10 or 20 yards.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of sprint work and much more, or at least it progresses to much more drill work.
Okay.
And then after that, it kind of flips. Like the drill work might be more intense, like bounds.
Yeah.
And then we're cutting down the volume of drill work and completely raising the sprint capacity.
Okay. Yeah, so good kind of idea of how you progress it just throughout the program. In terms of kind of like the length of the training sessions, just on average, I know you already mentioned it a little bit, but like those 6 days that you lift, or the 6 days throughout the week, Monday through Saturday, typically, like on average, how long are they spending with you just in terms of training?
That's a good question.
Probably depends on the day.
It does,
what you're
yeah.
doing.
For the Monday, Thursday starts agility position work, which isn't with me, thank goodness. We would do an hour for the starts in agility. So warm up, hit a few starts, work some basics of the agility. The agility drills are kind of easy.
Yeah.
They're just technical. But anyway, it's not high intense as far as the training. So an hour of that, then an hour of position work. Eat a snack, rest up for a little bit, but not anything super long. Then upper body lift, 45 minutes, hour 15, somewhere in there. So we're looking at, let's just say 3 hours of training.
Yeah.
The Tuesday, Friday sprint days, we're looking at an hour and a half on the field, sprint stuff. Yeah, hour and a half on the field, and then about an hour in the weight room as well.
Okay.
At different times of the year, it changes. As far as we'll start to have like, with speed squats on Fridays, they would have like, all right, here's the goal bar speed. And if you can maintain that, we will just keep going.
Yeah.
So it's basically an open-ended number of sets. And I'd cut them off at 10.
Yeah.
But hey, if you can hit 10 sets at this bar speed or this jump height, then let's do it. If it falls off at set 5 or set 7, yeah, that's fine. That's where you're at.
Yeah.
So some of those days can take a little bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, depending on the day, between 2.5, 3 hours training, somewhere around there. And then, I mean, from here, that's kind of a good overview of what the program looks like, kind of your thought process of putting it together and training for the tests. And you already kind of mentioned it a little bit with some of the tests, but like, this is something I'm always curious about is like what do you feel about the actual tests that they're doing at their pro day or their combine? Like, how much of that relates to actually like how good they're going to be at their sport?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Some things are more important than others for certain positions.
Sure.
What a receiver how many reps they can do at 225 versus offense or defensive lineman, varies in importance.
Right.
But still, like, just because you're the best, you're a defensive lineman, you have the highest bench press number, doesn't mean you're the best player.
Sure.
I tell people there's certain, like, you need to check the box.
Yeah.
There's a certain cutoff you need to be within for teams to even consider you as a running back or a receiver. You need to hit 10 reps on bench, or, for your certain position, like you need to run this time for your 40, you need to jump this high or this far. But as far as is it going to be a predictor of how good of a football player you are, very probably close to a zero relationship.
It's more, it just seems like it's more of kind of like you're saying, it's more of a kind of like a screening process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have so many people that are obviously trying to get to that level where if you have, certain baseline numbers or cutoff numbers, like if you're not even in this, then you're not even in the discussion.
They're not looking at you.
Which is good, I think, important to talk about, because I think a lot of times, athletes will think, those tests are super valid in the sense of, if I perform well on these tests, then that means that, I'm going to be good on the field.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's just kind of a screening process for the most part. Some of it obviously correlates to performance on field more than others, but that's always interesting to me, because it's like, I don't know how long ago the NFL Combine started.
I don't either.
But long time, decades ago. And it's like, it's always interesting for me to think about, like, okay, if the NFL Combine started 20, 30, 40 plus years ago, and we have these tests that have been somewhat consistent throughout that time, you think about how much training has changed over that time, and we're still using, the traditional tests, if you will.
Yeah. Sorry, but like we keep saying screening, and like how I refer to it to the players is this is it, because it is a job interview.
Yeah.
And so like, they're looking at your film, of course, but especially at the NFL Combine, which again, these guys were not at. The NFL Combine is a week.
Yeah.
And they're on the field one day.
Yeah.
So it's a ton of interviews. It's a ton of sitting in front of team doctors. They put you on the table. One team doctor is with you. All the other ones are in the room. Someone's like, all right, he's got the wrist injury from this year, and the doctor will test it.
Yeah.
Through specialized, assessments that I know nothing about. Okay, he's got the ACL, so they're doing their common ACL tests and like yanking on it. They're putting up imaging on the screens. Everyone has like your report. So it's a ton of that. If doctors see something that they're like kind of interested in, they send you to the hospital to get MRI or X-ray.
Okay.
So it's a lot of that. I've already mentioned it, ton of interviews, and then on the last day you finally get to do the final part of your job interview.
Yeah.
Which is the on-the-field performance test.
Yeah.
And then kind of what you're alluding to with some of the stuff's outdated. Like we should be doing better testing. There's stuff that they do that doesn't get reported on TV or NFL.com, which is they do a flexibility test. Again, how important is that? From some of the stuff you'll see, like they're rolling over and trying to have their feet touch the ground behind them. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But they used to do an FMS test. I don't know if they still do. And then they actually do some force plate testing.
Okay.
But again, it's just not made public. It's just not, I don't know if it's just not good for TV or it's hard to understand like what's going on, but there's standardized force plate testing.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good, obviously, that's, you can get a real insight into, a lot of different metrics with that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting to think about just kind of how it's all put together. And it's also, excuse me, I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't realize is that, the combine is like, you have these tests that everybody sees, but it's so much more than that. There's a lot of, and you know much more about it than I do. I really don't know shit about it, but just in terms of like, just knowing just in general that you're spending a lot of time talking to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like whether it's coaches or medical staff or however they go ahead and structure that. But it's like, it's not just your physical performance,
No.
It's also kind of the vibe they get from you and how you answer questions and, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes more or less, plays obviously a big role into where that person might end up getting drafted place-wise, you know what I mean? So from there, I don't know. I think you have your results kind of pulled up, or
Yes, yes.
I don't know if you want to work into results or kind of whatever else you have, in terms of data or whatever, but just kind of working in from there. And I know we've talked about it. Like you had some awesome results, especially from first year doing it. But
Yeah.
kind of get into that a little bit and
Sure.
what that looked like.
I'll talk a little about some of the different training stuff we did.
Yeah.
Because we talked about a weekly plan and the daily plan. I think some of the stuff that just made sense to me that we did, that some of it is a little more mainstream. Some stuff I don't think people are doing a whole lot of.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think is a bit more common, especially for this level, that higher level, about to be professional athlete, not necessarily high school athlete, is velocity-based training.
Yep.
So we're measuring bar speed on speed squats. I'm doing speed bench with them, even though the bench press is a strength endurance test. But for certain reasons, we still do speed bench, and we're constantly measuring like what their bar speed is, what the goal bar speed is, just based off the adaptation. Like, what are we looking for? Are we looking for someone to get a little bit stronger, or are we looking for someone to get a little bit more explosive, just based off their weaknesses? So a lot of velocity-based training. And then with that, because we're using, actual data of how fast they're moving, we would use that to determine the number of sets or sometimes even number of reps within a set. So to auto-regulate and have drop-off sets, we would do it with speed movements like speed squat, but we'd also do it with jumping. Like they might do towards like as we're getting closer to peaking, more of a CNS or higher neural part of the program. We would do 2 reps of speed squat, walk over to band assisted jumps, 5 reps, and then hit a vertical jump. If the speed squat remains about the same, the vertical jump remains about the same, we'll just keep going.
Okay.
If the vertical jump goes up, we'll keep going. If one of them drops off, then we'll end it. Pretty much, we might give them an extra set like to redeem themselves.
Yeah.
Depending on how they look and feel.
Okay.
If they're asking for it, okay. If you're like, nah, man, my legs are dead, we'll just stop. But so we'll use auto regulation. We'll also do it with speed bench,
Okay.
or with, I wouldn't even say speed bench, just bench press in general. Warm up, throw on 225, put the bar speed tracker on there, and they're trying to go as fast as they can each rep. Let's say the first rep's a 0.8, and then a 0.81, and then a 0.79, and then I do it 10%. So 0.81, and they drop off basically a 0.08, so whatever that is, 0.72. It's like, okay, the set's over. So using that to determine how many reps they do within a set. We would also do a ton of, especially in the later phases of training, last 4 weeks or so, of isometric pushes. So there's a ton of Alex and Tara research on isometric, run-specific isometrics, and some normative data as far as, all right, there's the hamstring test. I'll say it's hip extension, but hamstring, knee, and ankle. And if you're trying to, basically you should be able to hit these numbers.
Okay.
For these specific positions based on your weight. And okay, so we're going to do some of that stuff. And it's high neural, it's high strength. You're trying to push as hard as you can and break it. We do a lot of that. And then we would also do rapid eccentrics. So if for sprinting specifically, since the 40 is the king of the NFL Combine and pro days and draft prep, for sprinting, if the majority of the muscle action during sprinting is either concentric but it's unweighted, so you're swinging your leg forward, you're not applying force, you're swinging your leg back in front of you, just hit the ground, you're trying to bring it back in front, so it's high velocity, but when you're actually applying force into the ground, there's some research that shows the muscle action is isometric. Okay. So even though your foot hits the ground and the ankle gives a little bit, the knee gives a little bit, there's research showing that that's mainly tendon. The muscle is contracting as hard as it can and it doesn't move, but the tendon stretches and then recoils. And then there's some evidence showing that it's mainly eccentric.
Okay.
So very little concentric action. yes, again, unweighted, but when you're applying heavy forces, it's very, the percentage of that that's concentric force is very low. Um, so we would spend a lot of time doing, again, the isometrics and then fast eccentrics, like stuff I talk about all the time, stand on a box, depth drops, absorb that force, not even absorb the force, being able to apply force so you don't crash to the ground. We would do it with, like RDLs was one that we would do it with. We'd start with the bar.
Yeah.
The first 4 weeks we were working up to heavier RDLs, or maybe the first 3 weeks. Then we start to go to single leg RDLs. Then we go to barbell, unweighted. You drop it, you drop and catch it and stop it. So being able to quickly, rapidly lengthen and then contract the muscle. Then we'd work up to some weight, but like 85, 95 pounds, not a lot. So yeah, that's some of the stuff we would do with that. I want to get into more profiling this year, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
And then so some of the results. So my time at Bomberitos and seeing what other facilities post as far as their average improvements. Bomberitos, we're always for the 40. We're always about 3/10 of a second improvement. From what I've seen from like XPE and Exos, I think it was Exos, for sure XPE. And XPE is one of the top ones. They have leaderboards of their fastest athletes ever at the combine. It's crazy. But they're typically about 0.25 to 0.3. Maybe not them, but just the industry.
Yeah.
Seems to be the 40-yard dash improvements 0.25 to 0.3. Last year we were 0.44 improvement. So we had, I think, like the one that pops out the most, and this was a bigger improvement than 0.44, so it kind of throws the average a little bit better. But a running back that went from a 5.13, how I explained it to the group of coaches a couple months ago, is like that's like an average high school running back.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I have a running back, and he ran a 5.13. You're probably guessing he plays in high school.
Yeah.
Like you're not thinking anything special about him. And then he finished running a 5.0 at his pro day. Or 5.0, a 4.5.
Right.
I'm looking right at. He ended up running a 4.5, which is like puts him right in the mix at the NFL Combine.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, we had a guy go from a 5.28 to a 4.76, 5.19 to 4.75, 4.93, 4.62. So some of these improvements were like huge.
Crazy.
I was pumped.
Yeah.
Bench press is one I think we could have improved a little bit on. And I think how I progressed the bench press as far as continuing to progress intensity of it, when that's not the test, I should have thought more from a tissue or metabolic standpoint and increased the volume more. We went up on average 7 reps, which is still good.
Yeah.
Broad jump improved a foot. So again, we had a guy go from a 109, which I forget, what's that, 9 feet 1 inch, to 124, so over 10 feet.
Yeah.
Guy went from a 104, so not even 9 feet, to a 121. So for a lot of positions, especially skill or big skill, you need 10 feet. So to not even, to be a foot short of that to go into it. Vertical, we went up an average at 9.2 inches. And then the agility drills both improved by a quarter or a third of a second.
Yeah.
So huge. I was pumped. Especially 8 weeks, and it's just me and Jaden. Yeah, the nutritionist and the physical therapist. Like, there's a lot of people on board, but it's me and Jaden really in there doing this. And it's Jaden's first time doing it at all. And I'm the one talking to the agents and the players family. And just being like nervous the whole time. Like, is this working? Are we getting the results that they need in order to have a chance of playing in the NFL or any professional league? Just being terrified I don't know if terrified is the right word, stressed all the time, thinking about it. And then to get these results at the end, I was like, it works. Like
Yeah.
it at least works.
Well, I think it's important. You already kind of hit on it a little bit, but just to re-highlight the fact that this is only 8 weeks.
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
training for 8 weeks. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And to have the first two guys listed on the 40 to drop half a second or more on the
yeah,
40 is like
yeah,
that's unheard of. You know what I mean? Like that's insane to really think about. And like you said, going from a 5-1-2 or 1-3 or whatever it was to
yeah,
a 4-5 is like
yeah,
going from hey, like you can be like on our equipment staff, to which no disrespect,
no, not at all.
we have you obviously spent a lot of time doing that. I spent a very small amount of time, but we have really good friends that did that as well. But going from that time to a 4-5, especially at I don't remember exactly weight of this dude, but like he was a big dude too.
Yeah,
And so, like, I know his body composition got a lot better over the 8 weeks just with nutrition and training. So that obviously plays into how fast you're able to run. But
yeah,
just the the coaching aspect and the training to get someone to drop, over half a second. And again, this is a high level athlete. Like this is
yeah,
someone that's been training at a high level for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, depending on what his high school training looked like. It's like this is not a scrub,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
running these times, and that hasn't been exposed to, um, you know, quality training, I would
yeah,
assume.
yeah,
So all the more reason, as we all know, it's like, yeah, it's easier if someone's never been exposed or has very little exposure to legit quality training.
yeah. If they're a beginner,
Right. You're
yeah,
gonna get progress,
yeah,
but still, I would argue for a beginner to have those results, at least in the 40 is like still unheard of,
yeah.
So just to highlight the fact that this is only 8 weeks of training. You don't have a year with these guys.
No,
8 weeks of training and training people that already have a relatively high training age, just to get the results like that is crazy. Like it really is. And I know we've talked about it as well, but just to see, just to confirm that what you're doing is working and that you're actually doing the right things. Because especially for a lot of these guys, I can imagine like, this is a I don't want to say a risk, but like, a financial big step for them to be able to commit to something like this and, to really like just buy into the whole program.
yeah,
I just saw, a lot of those guys just from you reposting what they posted, but like just how grateful they were that, they took a chance and, decided to train with you in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Like,
yeah,
obviously it paid off for them and the investment that they made into like coming to do the training with you, obviously more than paid off, I would argue. So just like seeing those results and just seeing like you have that success was awesome. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Especially first year doing it all on your own, like man, that's incredible. It
yeah.
really is, bro.
I appreciate it,
No.
and it makes me excited. The other tab I have pulled up here, not for, oh no, I got rid of it for this, is like me starting to recruit for next year.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is exciting to see what the future will hold for this. I still don't want to do like any big groups with this. I know some people have mentioned, oh, what if you get like 30 guys? It's like, I really don't want that.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Yeah. And even, we'd hire someone else, but it's like, I want to keep it 10-ish or under. And obviously I want more than 5 this year, but if we could do 8 to 10 and just make these results, like just make the quality of the training so good and very specific to their needs, which I think is obviously so much easier in a smaller group.
Yeah.
But if I'm really trying to perfect this training process, that's kind of the way I want to go about it.
Yeah.
But as it's been alluded to, it's like trying to recruit people to Fort Wayne in the winter is not always the easiest.
Yeah, but I mean, you did it without any of your own last year, without any of your own actual proof or data, so now obviously there's a lot of credibility built up from having, from going to, I have good experience with training under somebody in Miami, but now like, I just did it last year and like,
Yeah.
bro, look at the results.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's like, you can spend all that time talking about what is all included in the training program, but like, shit, for me, like sending out the the digital resources, that'd be the first fucking thing I
Yeah,
show.
it's on
'Cause
there.
you know what I mean? It's like, bro,
Yeah,
look at the results. Like, you can't argue with,
yeah,
numbers don't lie at the end of the day.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so it's exciting to kind of think about, where it'll lead and kind of, because really at the end of the day, I mean, fucking, you could build it to as big as you really want to.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and just the more proof and the more validation you get through training more people and having more people be successful through this training program, obviously the higher the potential for it to grow. One thing I'm curious about, and you kind of already mentioned a little bit with like more like profiling, but like, what do you think you would change from last year to this year? What are kind of some of the bigger adjustments that you want to make in
yeah.
just the program as a whole?
Um, one that's been on my mind, and it shouldn't, I don't know, it bugs me, but probably shouldn't matter to me. It shouldn't be on my mind as much.
Yeah.
Is 225. Some of the ways I progressed them was like we would do some timed sets.
Okay.
So sets weren't for number of repetitions. It's you're doing as many reps as you can, and I think we started at somewhere in here like 15 seconds.
Okay.
Or maybe 20 seconds of work. And then each week it would kind of go to a lower volume, lower amount of time. And you're doing as many reps as you can until that timer stops. You record the number of reps you got. You have rest. You do it again the next set. You got either match that number or beat it. If you start to drop off, then you're done. If
Yeah.
not, we'll do 10 sets. And I think I progressed it the wrong way. I think I should have started with a smaller time frame, so a lower volume, and then progress the volume.
Okay.
That's what the 225 test is. So I'm like, I had that backwards. I was thinking too much intensity and nervous system when for that it's different.
Yeah.
For the 40, I want to do more profiling as far as I would time splits and kind of see where people are at and what they need to work on. But it's not like an exact, okay, this is exactly the amount of weight on the sled they need. This is not, okay, this person needs to work in the weight room more strength. This guy needs to work more speed.
I got
So
you.
being able to profile, there's JB Morin has published some good research on load velocity profiling,
Okay.
so with weighted sleds, and seeing, okay, what do people need to work on? There's also in the weight room, I already mentioned Alex Natera's run specific isometrics, but figuring out where's someone's weak spot and then what do they need to work on. And then the other three that would go into like one profile, other three tests, RSI testing, so repeated jumps. We did that last year, but to actually do something with the information. So RSI, see how reactive and springy they are, along with vertical jump on a force plate and isometric mid-thigh pull on a force plate. Those two specifically, the isometric mid-thigh pull will give you a high peak force output. And then where does your peak force output on a vertical jump compare? And if they're too close together, you're producing a ton of force in the vertical jump compared to your max force output, then we need to get you stronger. We need to raise the ceiling. If it's a big discrepancy, then we need to get you more explosive to get it kind of closer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's called the dynamic strength index, I think is what's referred to as. But yeah, just figuring out specifically what do people need to work on.
Yeah.
There was some individualization to the programs, but not as much from a load, a volume, intensity standpoint.
Yeah.
Exercises doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You want a speed squat, you want a trap bar deadlift, I don't care. Yeah, the exercises are just tools. It's like, what is the training stimulus we need to produce, and what do they need, all based off profiles.
Yeah.
So that'll be next year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think that will also just make it more, especially at that level, being able to tell somebody that, this program is individual to you based on these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially again, like you're coming out of college, like probably at played at probably a pretty high level, like depending on what level you were at. But just be able to say, hey, this is how we are going to individualize this for you, for each person, each athlete in this program, you know, I can imagine would go a long way to being like, yeah, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to train.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it's awesome, really good stuff. You know, I feel like there's a lot of, you know, there's a big aspect of when you're training athletes of this level for the highest level, whatever, you know, speaking of this with the NFL, it's like, I can imagine there's a lot of kind of tendency to like kind of keep stuff like, you know, what you're doing like kind of close to your chest, you know, like you don't want to give away your secrets and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, obviously, like you can tell everybody exactly what you're doing, and there's, you know, you can have all the information, but actually being able to apply it and run it and coaching in a way that's going to get results like this, you know, it's a lot more than just the, hey, here's the program. You know, there's more so, there's a lot that goes on outside of just the X's and O's of the program. So I'm excited to see how it grows, you know, and continue to see just the results that you get, and for it to continue to grow and grow and grow, and who knows what it could lead to.
Yeah,
you know?
I would like to do it with other sports as well.
Yeah.
The NFL Combine is just a different beast than the NBA Combine.
There's a whole show, you know, it's a whole event. You know?
They run the 40 at prime time. You know, like for a reason. But NHL Combine is one I'd really like to get into. But if there's not enough draft stock into it, the agents aren't going to invest money in sending someone here. But if that ever happens, they do VO2 max testing and they do wind gate testing.
Yeah, that'd be
like
cool.
It's like, okay, then we could figure out something together. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
There's MLB Combine, no one knows about it.
Yeah.
NBA Combine, no one cares. But if people do start to care, I'd love to do that here.
Yeah. Well, that could be something that, you know, I don't know how we would go about this, but, you know, playing a role in making people care about those things in terms of, you know, again, just thinking off the top of the head, but like how it's portrayed or how it's, you know, how it's shown to the people. You know what I mean? I feel like the NFL does a good job of making it, building it up into something that, because that's, I mean, that's some fun shit to watch, especially with it taking place, you know, in what month does the combine happen?
February, March.
So it's like, bro, you know,
There's
nothing going on. You
nothing
know?
football wise.
Exactly. Nothing football wise. So just to kind of, you know, there's a method to the reason that they do all of those things. So, you know, if we're able to not only, you know, kind of get ahead of the curve with the other, you know, sports and the other combines, because it's like, if people don't really care about those combines, clearly there's interest for the NFL Combine because of how they portray and build it up and the timing of everything. So why, you know, there's plenty of interest in these other sports leagues, you know, with the MLB, the NHL, the NBA, all of those sports league people love those sports just as much as they love the NFL, maybe. You know what I mean? Like there's interest behind it. So why can't those combines be an event just like the NFL Combine is, you know? And to kind of be, you know, for you to be a little bit, to be ahead of that curve and to try to be, you know, kind of have your hand maybe in some of that stuff before it gets to that point. Like, you know, you set yourself up for some awesome opportunities and success too. You know, so there's a lot that goes into that. But just thinking off the top of my head, like, you know, it could be something that could be cool to get into. You know?
Yeah, I'd never thought about it from. I've been more like hopeful. Oh, I hope the NHL Combine. I hope people care about it this year. And I think I'm either hopeful or like pessimistic of, even how we started this, like, does the 40 really matter to how good of a football player you're going to be? So I'm like, do people really care about what your, I don't know, your pull-up test for the NHL Combine is? No, but it's a measurement that they have selected to care about as a organization. But yeah, if it was just like portrayed to the market better, of like, hey, you guys should watch this. We're going to do it on ESPN. We're going to have commentators. Like, we're going to sell this product. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Because I think that's something that, you know, I've never watched any of the other combines outside. I've never watched a full NFL Combine either, but obviously seen like events and stuff, you know. but that's, you don't ever hear anything about any of
No.
the other combines. But like
No.
you said, like I didn't even think of the commentators and just, doing it at Lucas Oil Field and just kind of making it a whole event out of it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make an event out of it, like why would anybody watch?
Man, they bring fans there.
Yeah.
You're allowed to actually sit in the stadium when people run 40s now. Like,
yeah.
it's a whole thing now.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just something, I've never even thought about it until we started talking about it. But it's there again, with how much interest there is around just professional sports in general, regardless of what league it is or what sport it is, it's like you should be able to garner that interest in a way that is, I love hockey. So if you truly love hockey, like, there should be a way to make the NHL Combine something that you would want to watch, especially if it happens outside of the normal hockey season, and same with the other sports. So it's like, I think like you said, the way that they portray it or the way that they present it to the people, if they even do, I think is the main kind of thing of what could change kind of how popular those combines are.
Yeah.
So it could be something there. It could be something to kind of,
That'd be awesome.
yeah. But yeah, there's some great stuff, man. And I know we talked about it, especially like when it first happened, and it was awesome to see just those results and, to know how stressful that is to train those guys, for 8 weeks and to have it all being result based and to have all that pressure on you. And then kind of like we mentioned earlier on the back end of it, to see how grateful all these guys were that they took that chance and worked with you. Like it's cheesy, but like, at the end of the day, at least for me, like seeing the athletes get results and seeing how impactful and how grateful they are for the work that you put into them, is really, one of the best parts of what we do. Man, it's awesome just to hear and see. And there's a lot more detail to that, obviously, than what we can cover in an hour and 15 minutes or whatever it's been. But just cool to hear about. And I'm sure soon it'll kind of start picking back up into, recruiting people for the next group and doing that. So anything else, that you want to add to the end of it?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Kind of getting ready for the next group. So that's some really good stuff. I don't know of anybody else that's, sitting down and giving their information away in terms of, specifically what you did to more or less prepare these guys for their pro day or for their combine. So I think people out there can, if they're interested in this stuff, can get a lot out of, just listening to that discussion and listening to kind of how you put all that stuff together. So, that was cool, man. That was some great stuff. So we'll just keep knocking this stuff out, man. Keep finding stuff to talk about and keep discussing things and week by week, keep doing it. So, all right, man. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next week.